challenge against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. We've got a status hearing on the 15th that Southern District of Illinois Judge Stephen McGlynn's going to hold with the litigants, and the U.S. Supreme Court going into conference on the 16th to consider whether or not they take Illinois' case, but also a case out of Maryland. Could that lead to some kind of consolidation here? So it's a big week. Glad to help keep you updated here with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and join us each and every weekday as we break things down to hopefully get you to a place where you understand where we're headed. All right, let's go to the Southern District of Illinois federal case where Judge Stephen McGlynn had this case in front of him way back in April, actually even earlier than that. We're talking back in January when this case was filed, January of 2023. So pulling up the docket here on the federal court's PACER account, and you've got the complaints that was filed, and then they were consolidated. And then you had the motions that were filed, and just goes on and on and on. And you can see here all of the different entries on the docket all throughout 2023, when in late April of 2023, an order was made granting a preliminary injunction. Although the order specifically identifies the Barnett plaintiffs, the caption also references the consolidated cases: Harrell, Raoul, Langley versus Kelly, Federal Firearms of Illinois versus Pritzker. So an order was granted for a preliminary injunction back in April of 2023. But then you had the defendants in this go to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, and a stay was issued. And that was just a handful of days later. It was like 6 days, right? So an order granted on April 28th of 2023, and then a stay granted on May 2nd, 2023. This is all old news, right? So as that stay was granted by the appellate court, they then heard the case, and ultimately they decided that on a preliminary basis, the appellate court said that those consolidated cases from the Southern District, the state's likely to succeed on the merits. And that was the appeals court's decision. Not on the merits, it was on a preliminary issue, right? So now that the issue on a preliminary basis has been dealt with by the appeals court, it went back down to the district court and Judge Stephen McGlynn's East St. Louis court, where they are moving forward with the merits. So we've seen, of course, status hearing after status hearing, filing after filing, different types of motions being made. And then we get to on Friday, the state, they did file a notice that they've got a whole bunch of disclosures. All right, they've got reports from various experts that they've lined out. But before we get to that outline of the experts that they lined out, you've got last week we talked about this. The court was in receipt of a motion for extending a filing by the state, looking for an extension of the deadline. The court granted that in part, but denied it in part. And what was interesting was, when you break down what that report actually did, talked about Dr. Schreiber. Dr. Schreiber, they said, wasn't available. Somebody reached out to me and showed me that Dr. Schreiber, apparently, as it's been reported, was on administrative leave from the hospital that they worked for and the university they worked for. So check this out. This is rather fascinating. OHSU puts rainmaking trauma surgeon on administrative leave. Dr. Martin Schreiber has helped raise millions for the university. And this was in April of 2024, so just last month. Oregon Health and Science Universities put trauma surgeon Martin Schreiber on administrative leave after a complaint about him from a resident, a person familiar with the matter said. So maybe the state's not going to be able to get this expert. Regardless, the state has a list of tons of other experts that they filed with the court yesterday. I'm not going to go through the hundreds of pages here. I may read it on some free time I've got, but you can clearly see the total number of pages, rather large. All right, so you got a report from James Urgolestis, 101 pages. A report from Phil Andrew, 87 pages. Dr. Stephen Harkington, Visit 78 pages. Brian DeLay, 87 pages. Robert Spitzer, 321 pages. I'm sure that's, easy reading. By the way, I think the Second Amendment, how many words are in it? Some of you guys can tell me, but, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. How can you mitigate that with 321 pages? I guess that's, to be seen by the courts, as is filed here. So again, a long list of different experts that the state's looking to have, but clearly this is all ramping up to the status hearing before we get to some kind of trial, which could happen in July, as we're being told. The judge has put on, a tentative schedule telling litigants that he's looking at maybe July 8th. All that could change if the U.S. Supreme Court takes these cases. When are we going to find out about that? Not too sure. There's a conference that the U.S. Supreme Court has on the 16th. It's the day after the status hearing on the 15th at the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court. But the U.S. Supreme Court going into conference looking at these cases and also a case out of Maryland. So we'll be watching to see what happens here. But fascinating to watch, and hopefully you're keeping updated and informed as well as to what exactly we have here in front of us. So I do just want to briefly view just this one document here from the court that just outlines, rather the plaintiffs and the defendants, I should say, the litigants. State defendants' disclosure in accordance with federal rule. Defendants, Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul, Governor Pritzker, State Police Director Brendan Kelly, disclosed the following expert witnesses. It's just pretty much telling them accompanying these disclosures are written reports from the first 10 of these 11 witnesses. Of course, Martin Schreiber, we don't have, and we talk a little bit about that. In accordance with the rules, the court's order April 11th, in accordance with the court's order May 7th, the state defendants do not include the report from Dr. Schreiber. So we'll have to wait to get Dr. Schreiber's report, but is Dr. Schreiber's report going to be as extensive as, say, Spitzer's report, which was 300 plus pages? I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right, so hopefully that keeps you updated. We'll talk more about this as it progresses throughout. So appreciate you being here, liking and subscribing and sharing it up, and we'll keep you posted as we get more details. All right, it's Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and email me, bishoponair@gmail.com.